What's going on, guys? Turkish Grand Prix just happened, 2021, and we are going to be recapping it. Please let me know, again, subscribe, let me know what you want to see, kind of me going over for future videos in the comments, and any strong thoughts you've had on the Turkish Grand Prix, feel free to comment and enjoy. Alright, welcome back. Thank you everyone who watched last time. Well, the Turkish Grand Prix happened, so let's get right into it, do a little recap, a little breakdown, and walk through it. Okay, here's the top 10. Valtteri, Verstappen, Perez. I did not give Perez half as much credit in the last video as I should have. Shout out to him. He did a phenomenal job of holding off Hamilton, and I mean then finishing podium, just incredible. And this entire Grand Prix was just tire management with the different strategies, stopping earlier, later, or even Ocon, shout out to him, came in 10th, didn't stop at all. And those intermediate tires were slicks by the time that ended. Yeah, and just real quick to show you guys kind of what the tires were looking like after this. F1 put this on their Instagram. I mean, you can see that, let me try and zoom in. So you can see the outer tire right here of what it would normally be, but then, I mean, just no traction at all in the middle from those tires. And both of the Red Bulls pitted, so just imagine what Esteban Ocon's tires were looking like after that. I mean, just unreal. Other notable kind of happenings here. Obviously, Hamilton started 11th, worked his way up to 5th. We'll kind of get into that at the end, kind of Hamilton's situation. I know that there's tension there between him and his team. Leclerc just didn't have the tires for the end. He was, especially the last 8 laps or so, every time he would brake, he would just lock up and start sliding. So even though he was in really good position going into the, last part of the race, Perez just way better tire management. Gasly, pretty solid race for him all throughout the time. Sixth place, I mean, and he just stayed steady, just kind of a textbook race, and did what he was supposed to do. Nothing special, nothing bad. Shout out to Gasly. Norris, a little underwhelming. I know that during the race, if you watch, the announcers were talking about how it's not the right track for McLarens. Those long turns, McLaren cars just don't do too well on that, and I think that really showed, especially Ricciardo. You would think he'd be able to make up the gap from where he started, but he ended up 13th. So he made a little bit of ground, but really not as much as he should have. I mean, he was driver of the day, and he was right. Yep, driver of the day. I mean, just incredible. Ricciardo ended up starting behind him because of an engine replacement, but from P19 to P8 signs, that was enormous, and it also helped, as we can see, with the standings for Ferrari. They are closing that gap to McLaren. So huge shout out to Sainz. I mean, just what an incredible race from him. I think Lance Stroll's kind of in the same book as Gasly, just kind of did a great race. Good race, nothing too special, but nothing bad. So, it worked out, and we was able to get Aston Martin some points. And then Ocon being the only person, even though Hamilton wanted to, he's the only person who did not pit that entire race and stayed on the same pair of intermediate tires. And you know what? It worked out fine for him. I'm sure he was very happy to get in the points and help the team out that way. And then looking at the bottom 10 finishers, nothing too crazy that stands out. I mean, Ricciardo definitely, I guess he went from 20th to 13th, but I mean, he should be able to get around Alfa Romeos. That really shouldn't. And then the Alpine, Ocon in front of him, or in front of them, to get points. But I mean, I don't know. He just didn't have the best race. Alonso spun out like first lap, and that kind of set him up for failure, as he just, after that, was in the back of the pack and couldn't do too much the rest of the race. Vettel, I feel so bad for Vettel. Such a fan of him. He's just a legend in Formula One, but he thought that it would be dry enough to put on, I believe he put on medium tires, and he looked like a deer trying to walk for the first time. It was just bad to watch. So a mistake there. He was able to safely pit and put on new intermediates, but just a bad decision, and it really cost him places. Schumacher, he and Alonso had a bump at one point, which led to Schumacher dropping down, but no surprise for Haas there, right? 19th and 20th. Shame. I did say that Schumacher was gonna get first points for Haas, and I was just a little overzealous about that. So here's what we're rocking with for the constructor standings right now. I mean, Valtteri just ran a great race. Drove a great race. So not too much. Those, pole position points always help. But Red Bull, I mean, 2 in the podium, it does not get much better than that. So I said Mercedes was going to be the team to beat, and I'm, egg on my face for that, because Red Bull really crushed it. That being said, there's still a 30 some odd points gap between the two, so it's going to take a few more of these kind of races for Red Bull to really pass Mercedes. Again, my favorite battle is just heating up a little bit more. Ferrari really closed in on McLaren, 7.5 points. I'm really hoping that they can just keep whittling down that, and I think if they continue to do what they have, they almost had Leclerc on pole, so this is huge for them if they can just continue this consistency. It's only a matter of time before Ferrari passes McLaren. If Ricciardo finds his pace, then it'll be a real tough battle. But if Ricciardo just kind of continues to, sadly, breaks my heart to just have these kind of lackluster performances, then yeah, Ferrari's going to pass him in no time. And then last kind of data we're going to look at is just the change in driver standings. And, the only change here was huge points for Valtteri. That's great. He's kind of clearing that gap from Norris. Now, what is that, 33 points ahead of him, so that's huge. And Verstappen's winning by 6 points now. So Verstappen's up 6, which again, all it takes is one race. We saw that here. So no one's in the clear, really. Ferrari drivers, half a point. Half a point. I definitely think Leclerc's just been consistently better all season, and if he just continues to have decent races, he'll gain that. But I do think Perez is going to be safely ahead of them for the season, barring accidents or whatever happens. But that Hamilton Verstappen battle is just incredible, and it's a great reason to watch every week. And honestly, I think Perez showed me wrong this past weekend. So I think if we can see Perez still having consistency in that Red Bull car, it's his first year driving for him, but if he can really get used to it, I can see him surpassing Norris this season too. Even though Norris has been incredibly consistent throughout this entire season. Shout out to him. He's going to be so unstoppable in a few years. I guarantee it. And then lastly, we got to touch on this. Was the right choice made for Lewis Hamilton to have a one-stop strategy and, put on fresh intermediate tires, or should he have stayed out? That was one of the things where his race engineer was saying you have to box now for the best chances. He was saying that he should have stayed out. It's, the race engineer is looking at a lot of data about the race and what other cars are doing, while Hamilton, who's such a veteran and is able to feel the car, if he thinks that he, should have stayed out, then that does carry authority, and it's not like he should have just automatically listened to his race engineer. I know that there were a lot of comments and media about Hamilton being upset and mad, and he released a statement saying that, you know, that's just part of the sport. You know, everyone's very competitive and passionate, and, you know, sometimes heads are going to butt, but, you know, he did the right thing saying that they're still a team at the end of the day. They win as a team, lose as a team. Personally, I think he should have stayed out too. You know, I mean, his car was, even with the worn tires, still competitive with the cars in front of him. And, you know, I think he would have been able to get past Leclerc if he didn't pit, because one of the problems when all these drivers would pit to put on new intermediates, the tires would go through an overheating phase, and which slowed them down for a little bit. Hamilton, having pitted so late in the race, that overheating phase happened at just such a crucial time, to the point where, you know, it wasn't worth it at that point, and he wouldn't be able to get his tires up to temperature in order to pass Leclerc. So I think Hamilton was right, but, you know, that's all part of the sport. He's still only 6 points down in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes is still has a nice lead, and it's not the end of the world. He knows that. Continue to control what he can control, you know, and drive the best he can, and they'll just learn from this and make better decisions. Looking ahead to 2 weeks from now, I believe, is United States Grand Prix. Next year, so hyped for the Miami Grand Prix coming, but this is still going to be in Texas. You know, it's pretty cool. I mean, I live not in Texas, but here in the United States, so it's great that, you know, Formula One has been getting, or I should say the United States has been getting their dose of, you know, Formula One, and then even another step when we have Miami as well, which I'm sure will be great. I'll do another kind of recap or outlook video, and then a recap of the race afterwards. So, you know, if you enjoy these, let me know. Like and subscribe would be very, very helpful. Let me know any strong feelings you had on the Turkish Grand Prix, and let me know if, you know, Lewis Hamilton should have stayed out or not. And hope you enjoyed the video. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.